My name is Dana Keneally. I'm a principal of Evidox Corporation, which is a small boutique e-discovery company in Boston, Massachusetts. I like to tell a story about a client who had a government investigation sort of sprung on them at the last minute, and they had at a minimum a terabyte of data that needed to be preserved, and so we helped them with the preservation, but then the government was saying really every piece in there needs to be analyzed for relevancy. And we were able to take that data, and within about 48 to 72 hours, a terabyte plus of data, we were already running searches across the entire data set and starting to put together some metrics on what the hit results would be for key terms, and then using that information to go back to the client for them to take the information back to the government agency that was investigating them and saying, you know, these terms that you've come up with or the process that you're proposing really is unrealistic. And the dispute at that point, the government was sort of saying, well, that's what we want. And this client was able to take the metrics that we were able to give them and say, we'll go to the courts and push back on this. And we feel like we've got a strong case, and it allowed them to have a more meaningful and substantive conversation with that government agency rather than just a sort of you want me to do it and I don't want to do it conversation. So one of the things that we're able to show to the government agency is that the responsive rate on the initial sample set review, so that the government was asking essentially for a review of a terabyte of data, a hands-on attorney review. And this was, certainly there was some conversations around other predictive coding and some other technologies, but we just, as a first step before we even got there, what we wanted to do is to try to identify what the responsive rate in the data set was going to be. And in a very short amount of time, perhaps 5 business days, we were able to go back to the government and say, we used a statistical analysis of this data set and we believe the responsive rate is under 1%. It came down to 0.7% of a responsive rate. And it ended up fluctuating a little bit as we went further into the data set and expanded that sample set review. But it wasn't that much of a difference. I think it ended up being about 2.2% of a responsive rate. And that just really changed the conversation with the government. If the government's or the agency's trying to say that they anticipate that 20% of the documents are going to be responsive, that's a different conversation than when you have actual hard statistics to go back with, and it's under 5%, that changes everything. I think the biggest thing that the combination of law and EDA together has helped us is to make us a go-to service provider for clients when they know that they have a very large data set and they need a very, very quick turnaround. The combination of the two and being able to get data in and start getting results out as quickly as you can with terabytes of data really makes a big difference. So EDA is something that we've been using for, I think, 3 years now. We consider ourselves somewhat of an early adopter. It took us a little while to really implement EDA to the fullest extent, and I think part of that is just that we rely so much on law, and law is such a great application. But what we have found is that, as I referenced before, the data sizes continue to mushroom, that EDA allows us to make that first pass on large data sets. So we have been using law since we opened our doors in 2006. We seem to buy more and more licenses every year, which is a good thing for us because it means that we have more and more data to process. That's, I think, true probably for most people that are in this industry, because we see data sizes growing. As the cost to store data goes down, people seem to not store less data, but store more data. We use law really as the backbone of the organization. Eventually, it seems like almost every piece of data that comes through the door finds its way into law for one purpose or another. I think the biggest benefits of law is the way that we're able to have multiple team members work on it at different points in the process. There's very much a daisy chain still to the e-discovery processing of e-discovery data, I should say. And because we have a team that really needs to step in and wear different hats throughout the process. We have a team of people that really need to plug in and just sort of check on the data and make sure it's coming along. The way that the law application is set up allows for multiple team members to be working on the same project at the same time. And I think that that's an important feature.